What's going on, people? Welcome to another Emotion Football live stream. My name is Alam, and today we got a hell of a show to do. God damn, a lot of shit happened today. First day of free agency, really. The league year officially starts Wednesday at 12, but the legal Wednesday at 4. But the legal tampering period started today at noon. So that's really when all the business gets kicked off. A lot of stuff happened today, and we're going to try to get through all of it. So up until the last minute stuff that just happened like 2-3 minutes ago, we're going to try to touch on every single move that happened today. So shout out to everybody who is watching this live right now. 5 people watching live. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Anybody watching this on replay after the fact has the same opportunity to support the content. So make sure you guys do that if that's what you want to do. With the formalities out of the way, we're gonna get right into it. I see Will is in here. Like I said, lost my receivers. Will is our resident Seahawks fan. It's been a crazy offseason for you guys. The turnover is real. Yeah, we're gonna touch on it. Actually, I think Sam Darnold was the first move I had queued up. Yep. So we're gonna get right into it. Sam Darnold, Seahawks new quarterback, 3 years, 37.5 mil a year. I did some research on that number. That is technically the smallest starting quarterback salary. So from that standpoint, I'm a little bit surprised, but I'm happy for Seattle for sure. My take on that move is when I first heard that they were parting ways with Geno Smith, I was a fan. I don't mind the reset for them. I don't think they were really going anywhere as they were set up previously. I think there was limitations to having a bad offensive line, a mediocre quarterback, and great receivers. That playing style really isn't taking you anywhere. I think they're completely rebooting the franchise, like the offense. And I agree with that idea. Letting go Geno Smith, I agree with that idea. I don't think you're supposed to pay a quarterback like Geno Smith. When I saw that they were pivoting from Geno to Sam Darnold, I got scared because I felt like they were going to pay way too much money for Sam Darnold. I kind of got the feeling that the beginning of his year would take precedent and that he would get a huge deal. So I kind of have been, I guess, building up to the fact that I really hate what Seattle is doing. But when I saw this number of 37.5, truthfully, that is not a bad number at all. Like I said, lowest starting quarterback salary. The next lowest salary is Justin Fields, and then it's a rookie contract. So it's, I think, whoever the number 1 pick is, Caleb Williams. So as far as veteran quarterbacks go, this is not a bad deal. So I think they refrained from paying big money to a quarterback that isn't it. So if the options are Geno Smith or Sam Darnold for less money in a 3rd-round pick, I think they definitely went about the right direction. Like I said, I support what I think they're doing, but we're going to see whether that's actually true. Clint Kubiak was with San Francisco with Darnold, so there's familiarity there. But yeah, Kubiak is a part of this younger generation of these offensive coordinators that really give their quarterbacks like pretty easy throws, pretty easy decisions to make. So the way that he thrived in KOC's offense, at the very minimum, you would think he would have, it wouldn't be a crazy drop off to Clint Kubiak in terms of just familiarity. And like I said, they spent time together in San Francisco. So that part of it checks out. Yeah, I don't mind this move. Like I said, what I think is going to happen is they're gonna bolster the offensive line. They're gonna run the ball a lot with their 2 running backs, and I don't think their passing game is going to be particularly high volume. So I don't think Darnold is going to be expected to sling the ball around 40 times a game. I do think he's going to be asked to be a game manager. So yeah, that's the word with the Seahawks making that big signing. They made some other moves as well, or am I going to get to that later? Oh no, I talked about the Seahawks' other moves yesterday. So Will, if you're still in here, if you want to catch what I had to say about the defensive signings, I did that yesterday on the stream. But basically, like, I think they're getting Mike McDonald his players. He was brought to bring an elite defense. He didn't do it last year, but he also didn't do it immediately in Baltimore either. So I kind of got the feeling that what they're going to do is they're going to set the defense up. They're going to set the offensive line up, and then probably figure the receivers and the quarterback out next year. So I thought that pivoting to Sam Darnold would mean that they're forcing you. Yeah, Jared, I'll see you after. Bro, I saw this morning. Yeah, 100%. waiting for this IOL signing. Yeah, that's the move. But here's the thing. If you guys don't make the signing in free agency, they're tipping off what they're doing in the draft. They're definitely drafting IOL in the first round. But yeah, because that's really what they need. I think they're going to completely change their offensive identity, and I support it. I don't think they were on the right track with what they were doing earlier. But that's one organization. We got the Seahawks making the biggest quarterback move of the day. The second biggest quarterback move of the day was Justin Fields going to the New York Jets. So yeah, that one is also another interesting move. I think they kind of did it's a similar decision to what the Seahawks just did. It's we want to get a quarterback with upside, but we don't want to pay too much money. Justin Fields' contract is even smaller than Sam Darnold's, 2 years, $40 million, $20 a year. If you compare that to Gardner Minshew, I think Gardner Minshew got 15 a year last year. So it's basically like that's the range for like the hybrid deals of like, this will be an amazing backup or a lower end starter. So it's definitely a fair deal for the Jets. I like what these two organizations did going for Darnold and Fields, smaller contracts. You can draft somebody. You're not really married to the two quarterbacks, Darnold and Fields. If things don't work out, you can pivot to a younger quarterback. And if things don't work out with the younger quarterback, you're not really stuck with Fields or Darnold long term. You can always go get another quarterback next offseason. So I like the Fields signing. I like the Darnold signing now that I know the numbers are low. As far as the Jets go, I think the contract indicates they're definitely going quarterback. You don't go out there next year with a $20 million quarterback and just rest on your laurels with that one player. The only other quarterback they have under contract right now is Jordan Travis, FSU quarterback. So that's definitely not the plan under any circumstances. So yeah, they're definitely drafting a quarterback. If they got Milroe, that would be a dynamic quarterback room. If you think about Fields, Milroe, and Jordan Travis, that's a whole lot of running. You would see, I guess you would, Tanner Engstrand would tip his view of the quarterback position, if that's how consistent their quarterback room was. But like I said, I think this is a good move. He has familiarity with Garrett Wilson. I think they improved the offensive line last year. It's not great, but he's such a great runner. Like he can help be a bit of a solution to that. The only question is going to be can they basically get him to fit within the offense? I think my understanding of that offensive coordinator is that he's his offense is a system, right? It's going to put the quarterback in situations where he's going to have to make decisions. So we're just going to have to see how Fields adapts to that. But yeah, because if you think about Fields in last year's Lions offense, it doesn't make sense at all. So we're gonna have to see how that goes. Big up, Joel. Good to see you. Hey, a lot of losses today, but it is what it is. We knew what was gonna happen. Some of those numbers are crazy though. But yeah, I like this move for the Jets. They should go draft a quarterback, and they're gonna have flexibility next offseason if neither of the quarterbacks work. The next team we're gonna look at, the Patriots. The Patriots blew a bunch of money today. Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Robert Spillane, Morgan Moses. So generally, I like this. I like what they did. Milton Williams, they gave him a shit ton of money, but the thing you guys have to keep in mind is that Massachusetts has crazy taxes. So the Patriots in free agency, if they want to go get a player, they're always going to have to give stupid money. And they definitely did that today with Milton Williams. Stupid money meaning high over other bids. And like I said, that's definitely the case with Milton Williams. $26 million a year, the third highest defensive tackle in football, in terms of pay. Christian Wilkins and Chris Jones are the only defensive tackles with bigger contracts. That is wild, but they needed talent desperately. Mike Vrabel is somebody who is going to want to, I guess, establish a tough physical identity. And I don't think he can, I think that's a very difficult thing to do if you don't have the guys. If you come in to a shit team and you just try to get shit guys to play hard, that is a difficult sales pitch. But if you look at what he did today, we upgraded the secondary, we upgraded the linebacker room, we upgraded the defensive line. So immediately you got upgrades at every level of the defense. Interestingly enough, they've gone for some veterans here. I think Robert Spillane is 30 this year. Carlton Davis is 29. Milton Williams is in his prime, like 26, I think, or he's headed into his prime. So that move has some longevity. But Morgan Moses is old as hell. I think Morgan Moses, giving a 3-year deal to a 34-year-old is crazy. That's the one deal I really don't like. I don't think it should have had, like, I don't think it should have cost that much money. But I think it's pretty clear that, like, they were blowing bags today. Carlton Davis got paid more than DJ Reed. I personally don't understand that. I think Carlton Davis had to sign a 1-year deal last year for $8 million. Like, he was just on a prove it deal, and he played well in Detroit. But, like, to go from prove it to $20 million a year, more than DJ Reed, again, I think the Patriots they had to not just one up the best other offer, but they had to blow it out of the water. I'm pretty sure they had to do the same thing with Milton Williams. So they handed out some big contracts, but I don't think they got any bad players except maybe Morgan Moses because he's 34. Milton Williams should help. Carlton Davis should help. Robert Spillane should help. But yeah, from an identity standpoint, like, you see Vrabel going defense first. You can tell the kind of foundation he's trying to build. I mean, just basically, like, looking at the offensive players that have come off the board already, doesn't look like the Patriots are going to make huge additions offensively, meaning, like, you're probably going to see them be a low-scoring team with a good defense. Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, that's a hell of a pair of corners when it comes to man coverage. We're probably going to see a man-heavy defense. So, yeah, better. They got better. They overpaid a little bit, but that's just part and parcel with getting players this time of year. And, you know, they're a team that had to overpay. They could not go another year while just being lesser than from a talent standpoint. And a coach like Vrabel, you got to kind of give him the right pieces to embolden him to really set the culture the way he wants to. So all in all, positive outlook on the Patriots' first few hours of free agency, but still a long way to go because that roster needs a lot more talent. Next team we're going to look at, the Bears. They got Drew Dahlman, the best center in free agency, 26 years old. He apparently had a really good year on the Falcons. I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched the Falcons center last year with a whole lot of, careful, like, attention to detail. But they got him. They got Dayo Odeyingbo, edge rusher from the Colts. Another player kind of just like Dahlman from the standpoint of, like, the stats and the production was really, really high. But these are both players that nobody was really looking at last year, and names that people didn't really know until they read the free agency previews. So yeah, two players with upside, but you got Grady Jarrett here. He was cut by the Falcons. I think he's like 32, obviously like a franchise player for the Falcons. Now he's going to finish his career in Chicago. What I will say Chicago did a good job of is they plugged a lot of their obvious needs. So, like, these players, they might be amazing. They might just be okay. But the point is like, they don't really have to draft anything anymore, right? Because they have a center and two guards now. They've always been content with their two tackles. So while you could probably upgrade the left tackle if you want, or you could maybe get a long-term solution for Joe Thuney's spot because he's 32, you don't have to, right? You could upgrade the receiver room, but you have Adunze and DJ Moore, so you don't have to, right? You could upgrade the tight end spot, but you have Cole Kmet and you signed a backup, so you don't have to. DeAndre Swift, the running back room, that one's a little bit tricky. Never mind. That one's a little bit tricky. I kind of do think they have to upgrade the running back room, but now defensively, right? You got Dayo Odeyingbo, you have Montez Sweat on the other side, Grady Jarrett and Jervin Dexter in the middle. You have two linebackers. You pay TJ Edwards and Terrell Edmonds. You have a whole secondary already. Like, there's no place on the Bears roster where it's like this. I guess running back might be the only one, just because we know that Ben Johnson doesn't rate DeAndre Swift, but the Bears did a great job of covering their holes. Again, like, I think a lot of, like, a fair criticism might be that, like, neither of these guys, like, are that great. They've added a bunch of players that are good players. But that's, I think, the kind of offseason that they needed. I don't think the Bears needed to be chasing superstars. I think they've had some flashy off seasons. They need kind of like a fundamental, like, a season off season of just substance. And that's what I think they got here. They're positioning themselves to draft BPA as opposed to drafting by need. And that's a great spot to be in. That's how you make good draft picks. So Yeah, I really like the Bears offseason. Again, I'm not basing that on the fact that all these guys are amazing. I'm basing it on the fact that they have a roster that's fairly well-rounded right now, and that positions them nicely for the rest of the offseason. The next team we're going to look at, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got Hassan Reddick, Chris Godwin, and Ben Bredeson. So bringing back Bredeson and Godwin, bringing in Hassan Reddick, who was a free agent from the Jets. This one I think is interesting because you got two players being brought back. You didn't really have Godwin for the second half of last year. I heard that Bredson's not really good. Obviously, again, I'm not going to sit here and act like I've been watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line with a great attention to detail. But yeah, apparently he's not that great. Weakest link of the offensive line. That's what I heard. So kind of a peculiar one to like a peculiar deal to wrap up early. But you got Chris Godwin. That's a good deal to bring him back. Not really. I mean, yeah, after such a severe injury at 29, there's a chance he's washed. But I think like he's the kind of player where I trust him to give them at least this year. And then really a 3-year deal is actually a 2-year deal. So then there's just one more year they have to get through. Surprised that the Bucs re-signed Godwin. So the rumors about that is that apparently Godwin took a $20 million pay cut to go back to Tampa Bay. Apparently somebody else was willing to offer him what he got 66, so 86. Apparently it was New England. So he turned down serious money to stay in Tampa Bay. Probably the familiarity is probably more valuable to him because he's rehabbing a major injury. But yeah, that's apparently the rumors about Godwin. But yeah, the Bucs. I like Reddick. That's the last one I'll end off with. I like Reddick because I think Todd Bowles is the coach I'd give a benefit of the doubt to. When it comes to Reddick, I kind of got the feeling that the circumstance would be really important for where he goes. If he goes to a good defense with a good coaching staff, they're probably going to get some good value out of him. I think if he ended up on a trash defensive unit in a chaotic situation, kind of like the Jets, I think it could have been another bad year. So I think he ended up going to a good coach, solid organization. Who's one? Let me quickly check the other edge rusher because I don't think he's the best edge rusher. Why am I blanking on who's rushing the edge for the Bucs right now? Because I know obviously Vita Vea is up the middle. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers edge. Oh yeah, Yaya Diaby. Okay, yeah, he's been playing good. But yeah, so you got Diaby and Reddick. No income tax as well for sure. Oh yeah, that's true. That's probably a good chunk of that gap between Tampa Bay and New England. But yeah, I like Reddick. It's a 1-year deal. If it doesn't work out, you're not overly committed like the Jets. So it's solid. It's not like this isn't a home run first day for the Bucs, but it's definitely solid. Next move we're gonna go for is DJ Reed to the Lions. This shit pissed me off. Like majorly, this pissed me off. I think he's better than Carlton Davis. I looked them up. They're the same age. I saw Carlton Davis got 12 more on they both got 3-year deals, but he got 12 million more, 60 versus 48. That might be just a New England thing and having to pay more because of taxes, but like, bro, I think DJ Reader is a very good football player. And maybe I was lost on the fact that he had a bad year last year with the Jets, or maybe he did have a bad year in terms of production, and that's because the whole Jets like defensive unit fell apart. But like I think he's a pretty good player. I'm actually like I think they upgraded Carlton Davis, and I'm a little bit upset about that. I don't think he's not like a flashy player in terms of getting picks, but for a guy who doesn't have the best size in the world, he holds his own on the outside. Doesn't really get cooked that much. I guess it'll be interesting to see how much. I mean, they play all man in Detroit basically. I think in New York under Saleh they played the same, but before that he was in Seattle where things were pretty different. But yeah, that being said, I think he's a really good player. This move pissed me off. I was not happy to see this. The Lions had a horrendous defense at the end of the year last year, but that was because of all the injuries. If you look at the money that they've spent so far, they re-signed 2 players on defense that were injured last year, so they got more guys. Like they added to basically what they had at the end of last year just by bringing those guys back. And then I was looking at Carlton Davis, and I'm like, they might lose that piece. That might be not the simplest piece to replace, and let's see how that goes. But they upgraded him, in my opinion. So I think DJ Reed is a solid addition. I'm not a fan, but like I'm not a fan as an Eagles fan that hopes the Lions aren't that good next year. But yeah, this is a solid signing. I like this. That being said, it's the only signing that they've made so far. So I don't think they've made like earth-shattering moves on the defensive side of the ball. I was just hoping that the center back spot would be something that falls off for them next year. And I was wrong. Next team, we're going to look at the Cardinals. They signed Josh Sweat and Evan Brown. So Evan Brown, a solid guard for them last year. They bring him back. They lost their offensive line coach. So this guy was a journeyman, like wasn't really sticking anywhere. It looks like the Cardinals offensive line coach really helped him like become a NFL capable or NFL caliber starter. And that guy's not there anymore. So maybe this guy's production will drop off, but that's just like a standard signing. You brought back an average NFL starter. But the big swing here is that they got Josh Sweat. They had one of the worst pass rushes statistically last year. They tried to add Baron Browning mid-year. It didn't really help. But they brought Browning back, and now they have Josh Sweat coming in. He obviously has the familiarity with John Gannon. This is probably the biggest free agency signing they've made for this regime. This regime has been notoriously cheap. I feel like they've had a lot of opportunities to really splash some cash and get meaningfully better from a talent standpoint, and they haven't really been able to do it up until this point. So I like the Sweat signing because you have the scheme familiarity. He's obviously a major upgrade at the edge position. My only thing with Josh Sweat is that, like, and Joel, you can speak to this as well. I kind of feel like he's an up and down player, and I feel like he has his best years and contract years. And I kind of get the feeling that those kind of up and down players that where the production or like the output comes and goes, I don't like putting those kind of players in situations like Arizona, where like if he went to a New England where I know Vrabel is going to have those guys playing, I would feel a little bit better. If they put him where else? Actually, no, New England's a great example. This is it, bro. This is what I'm getting at. So if you don't believe me and Joel. Bro, he just doesn't care sometimes. So you put him in Arizona. That's a situation where like you're primed to quit because the facilities are trash. Everybody talks about how underinvested the owner is in the facilities. The organization culturally like hasn't been the best, and it starts at the owner. You're talking about an amazing place to be rich from a weather standpoint and a how far your dollar goes standpoint. And like, just, I don't know, you put that player in that situation, I kind of see it not working out that well. So the thing is like, if they can just copy paste Josh Sweat from last year and add that to the Cardinals this year, I like the signing. But obviously these things aren't so simple. So I have a little bit of concern with Sweat from that standpoint. But like, I'm not enough of a hater to be like, yeah, this is just definitely not going to work. Just wanted to get that concern out there though. But like I said, if they could just copy paste his production from last year, get it guaranteed next year, this is exactly the player they need. So that's going to take us to the next team, which is the Jaguars. And as you can see, this is a big ass list. So the Jaguars made a bunch of signings. So they got Makari from the Ravens, good guard. Also is able to play tackle. So you basically got a Swiss Army knife, but the general manager, Gladstone, already came out and said, we're looking to bolster the interior of the line. So I'm thinking that Makari is going to definitely play guard. You got De'Ami Brown, who I'm thinking is going to be receiver 2 because they have BTJ. After cutting all the players they cut, the next 2 receivers they have are Parker Washington and Gabe Davis. I think both of them they probably compete for wide receiver 3 with somebody that they draft. So De'Ami Brown is going to come in and be wide receiver 2. I don't love that because I think when he was wide receiver 2 for the Commanders last year, I was like, well, I think that position needs to be upgraded. Like that's not really a contending team caliber wide receiver too. But for a team that's probably going to be trash next year, like that's like decent, I guess. He's on a 1-year deal for 10 mil. He had his best year of his career last year. He's going to get a chance to maybe show that it wasn't just like a flash in the pan and maybe get a bigger contract next year. But yeah, I don't hate that move. Jordan Lewis, they made him, I guess, 10 mil a year. They made him, I think Rappaport said, the highest paid nickel corner. Eric Murray, safety from the Texans. So they got 2 starters in the secondary, but like mid-level players as a whole, like not superstars, but guys you can definitely count on to play good football. Chuma Doga, swing tackle. I'm assuming that's going to be the backup, a swing tackle. That being said, though, I feel like the contract was a little bit big for a designated backup. So maybe they're going to put him at guard. He's a player that kind of has had his ups and downs as a tackle. And like I said, the GM talked about wanting to bolster the interior of the line. So they may have signed 2 guards here. I'm not sure. Hunter Long, backup tight end, random guy from the Rams. I guess Cohen and Gladstone are familiar with. And then a backup quarterback, Nick Mullins. So like what I see that the Jaguars did here is let's plug some holes without spending too much money. When we previewed the Jaguars offseason, we talked about how they're a very expensive roster and they have a decision to make. Like their owner thought that it was the best Jaguars team ever last year. Now you fire the coach that didn't get any results with that team. I thought the Jaguars were at a bit of a crossroads where they could have doubled down. I think the ownership and the franchise direction as a whole could have doubled down and said, you know what, this is a good team. The last coach sucked. Our new coach is going to come and coach these players up and all will be well. So like doubling down would be, again, like kind of bolstering the roster. Getting rid of people you can get rid of, but then trying to bring in good players with the belief that more good players will help get the most out of the group. I think they're not doing that, which is what I'm happy to see, because I think the right decision is this: make mid to low tier free agency signings, plug up some holes, again, kind of do like a lower level of what the Bears are doing, because the Bears are actually trying to be good. The Jaguars, I think this is a sensible way to just not put yourself in a position of dire need, right? You have a couple starters in the safety. You potentially sign 2 guards here, right? Make it so that you're not just deathly desperate to draft any singular position. Draft BPA, and hopefully you get, again, just the best possible talent you can get from the draft. So I like the Jaguars offseason so far from a sensibility standpoint, not from a talent acquisition standpoint. These are not home runs, but it's just sensible spending on basic players. De'Ami Brown can play. Like all these guys can play. And yeah, just put yourself in a position to draft BPA. And I think that's what they're doing. So I like it. The next team we're going to go to, the Commanders. I think the Commanders are having a strange offseason, man. So like they signed Zach Ertz yesterday. They traded for Laramie Tunsil like 20 minutes ago. By the way, anybody in the chat, as I would have missed everything that's happened in the last 20 minutes. So if anything's happened, put in the chat and I will, I'll try to, I'll react to it if it's worth reacting to. But the Commanders signed Javon Kinlaw and Laramie Tunsil. So the thing about Laramie Tunsil is streets are telling me, and Jared, you can confirm this. Apparently he had a bad year last year. Now that could have been, circumstances, sometimes players have bad years because like the larger unit that they're a part of is failing. So like you just kind of get dejected, stop trying, whatever, right? So maybe that's what happened. Or maybe Tunsil, who once was elite, is now just very good. And that is a drop off, albeit he's still a good player. Again, was I watching the Houston Texans left tackle with an incredible attention to detail last year? No. But my thing is like the pattern is so strange. You got Zach Ertz, like 34 or some shit. Deebo Samuel, 29. Marshawn Lattimore, 29. Austin Eckler's old as hell. Laramie Tunsil is old as hell. Javon Kinlaw is a scrub. Like this is something we have to make clear. Like nobody, like I scoured Reddit for Jets and Niners fans, like looking for somebody who had a positive thing to say. Nobody had any. The best thing I heard about Kinlaw is he's above average at times. Him getting $15 million a year on a 3-year deal is ridiculous. Adam Peters is from San Fran. I think he was there when they drafted Kinlaw in the first round. I think this might just be a thing of like, hey, I really believe in the guy. We have an opportunity to sign him. And you know what? He plays a premium position and he's probably had flashes here and there. So there may have been a market of stupid teams that wanted him. But like, I don't get it. right? They have Deron Payne, who's great. They have Johnny Newton, second round pick from last year, who's great. Well, he looked like he's going to be great. You have 2 starting defensive tackles. Why did you need to pay this guy $15 million a year? Also, if you're going to pay a defensive tackle $15 million a year, I am sure there were better options out there. This is a really, really strange deal to me. And again, their larger approach to building around Jaden Daniels is really, really strange because it feels like they're buying into like, hey, we got to win a Super Bowl in year 2 or year 3 of Jaden Daniels. And I just think they need to pump the brakes on that because like Jaden Daniels is great. But winning a Super Bowl in your first 3 years of your career is really, really difficult. They're spending all their money on players that like you can't really bet on these players being meaningful contributors in 3 years. Deebo Samuel at 29. Do we know for sure that he's going to be good at 31? We don't. Is that Marshawn Lattimore? He might be trashed now. Laramie Tunsil, I think he's like 33. Do we know for sure he's going to be good at 35? He might even be older. Zach Ertz, like all these players are not going to be like you. I mean, you can't guarantee anybody's going to be good in 3 years, but you know for sure that these guys are probably not going to be good in 3 years. The level of pushing the chips into the middle of the table for year 2 and year 3 Jaden Daniels, I think it's naive roster building. I think the best approach to a situation that Washington is in is try to get players on their second contract in the offseason. Obviously, the goal is to draft well. That should always be the goal. But when it comes to adding players from other teams, look for guys whose rookie contracts just ran out. I think that's the way to go because it gives you some room for error. Yeah, those kind of players are usually experienced enough for you to count on them in big moments in the playoffs. But also, if things don't work out in any given 1 year, they're still young enough to where you have a larger window. The Commanders are on purpose giving themselves a tiny window. It's not necessary for them to do things this way. So I'm very, very perplexed. And there's nothing against any individual players. Like, look, I think Deebo, like, it's not even I think. We all know he took a step back last year. It's possible that was just a bad year. I'm not saying he's a bad football player. Marshawn Lattimore might be a bad football player. No, I'm kidding. Like, he's had his struggles. Or like he had his struggles last year. Zach Ertz, not a bad football player. Laramie Tunsil, not a bad football player. Kinlaw, he might be a bad football player, but like, again, maybe I'm wrong. It's not the fact that they're not adding good players. They're just on purpose making their window tiny for no reason. And I don't agree with the approach. But yeah, we're going to keep it pushing. Next team we're going to look at is the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers made some moves in the secondary. So apparently they were going to get, what's his name? Milton Williams, but at the last second, the Patriots came and upped the price. So no Milton Williams for Carolina. That sucks because if they left today, extending J.C. Horn, signing Trevon Moehrig, and getting Milton Williams, that would have been a serious investment into their defense. But as of right now, they locked up J.C. Horn, $25 million a year, the highest paid corner in football, but he's also only still 24. So this guy was a very young player on his rookie deal, still has an opportunity to get better. So that's justifiably a market-setting deal. Moehrig, again, like players that play for the Raiders are kind of lost from the football collective conscience. Like, we don't really know who's good on the Raiders or not because every time we look at the Raiders, they're doing something worthy of laughing at. So I don't actually know how good this guy is. He had a lot of attention. He's getting a big deal. I think like $17 million a year. If he's getting that deal, there was definitely a market for him. But yeah, like it's kind of a disappointing offseason so far for the Panthers because they do have the opportunity to spend cash. They have a rookie quarterback. Like a quarterback on a rookie deal. So you know that there's money to spend. It looks like their options of guys to spend it on are dwindling, though. So if they leave free agency with the only big contract being a safety, that's rough. So kind of scared for the Panthers a little bit. But, you know, it is what it is, man. Tepper put himself in this position. He did it to himself. Next team, we're going to look at the Packers. They signed Aaron Banks. So they took an offensive lineman from the Niners. From everything I know, apparently this guy's not that good. I say that because Brock, the resident Niners fan on this channel, I'm pretty sure he was shitting on Banks in the chat one time. And the understanding generally of the Niners offensive line is like, Trent Williams is that guy, and everybody else is just okay. So with that being the case, the Packers giving this guy the contract that they gave him seems a little bit strange. I didn't even necessarily think they needed a guard upgrade this bad. Let me look up their guard situation because they have Elton Jenkins. He's supposed to be pretty good. What is this? Oh, Elton Jenkins they're kicking him to center. Our lads seems to think that Elton Jenkins is going to be playing center next year. So maybe that's what it is. They needed a guard because they wanted to slide their guard to center. Oh, okay. I guess so. But I mean, if he's not good, though, he's not good. Nothing can substitute for not being that great at the sport of football. Banks is not good at all. This is what the streets are saying. So I don't know. Packers, they typically so even with like the fact guard in terms of contract, they still forked over a decent bit of cash respective to what the Packers spend for a player that I don't think is particularly great. So don't love the move. And we'll have to see how he holds up. Next team we're going to look at the Chargers. They signed Khalil Mack. So the theme of the Chargers offseason that I kind of always hammered home is the fact that like they're going to lose a lot of players and they're going to have to spend a lot of their free agency just either retaining guys or replacing them. So it's kind of going to be hard to get better. They cut Joey Bosa. Khalil Mack was always a free agent. They're bringing Mack back on a 1-year deal. So again, that's one player retained, but it's going to be an offseason of this for the Chargers. Again, this is the only move they've made today. So they still have a lot more work to do. If you had to grade the Chargers offseason so far, it would have to be incomplete. But yeah, Khalil Mack is back. What I heard is that he had a year that was better than his stats. So I think his stats say that he had 7 sacks, but apparently he had a much better year than that in terms of like defending the run and getting pressures and whatnot. So they brought back a good player, but they're going to need to bring back more because they are missing a lot of players. Next team we're going to look at, the Tennessee Titans, man. What a funny team. What a funny team. And I wish King was here for this part of it. King, if you're watching this on the replay, brother, please educate me on Dan Moore. Because my understanding of Dan Moore was always that like above average left tackle. Definitely NFL capable starter. Definitely not a bad player. But just generally solid player. They gave him $22 million a year, I think. So, I mean, that's not a great signing. The plan apparently is that for him to play left tackle and then they can kick J.C. Latham, their offensive tackle first-round pick from last year, who they tried to play left tackle. Here's the crazy thing. So J.C. Latham was a right tackle at Alabama or wherever he was. I think it was Alabama. They drafted him high in the draft, played him at left tackle out of position, determined that he wasn't a left tackle because guess what? He wasn't a left tackle. And now they have to pay a left tackle just to swing him back to right tackle. But when you're desperate to do shit like that, you end up making these kind of decisions, like overpaying for Dan Moore. Again, I feel like I heard a lot of Steelers fans talking about wishing that they had a better player than Dan Moore, which is why guys like Broderick Jones got drafted. But like, to start your offseason by overpaying for Dan Moore just to correct a bit of a mistake you made last April with drafting J.C. Latham to be a left tackle, that's not a great start to the Borgonzi era in Tennessee. And then the second move they make is they pay Sebastian Joseph Day at a position that I think is the best position on their team. They have Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons. That defensive tackle tandem, quietly one of the best in the NFL, in my humble opinion. And what did they do for their second move of the offseason? They got a backup. They got some depth at the best part of their team as opposed to fixing fixing some of the more problematic parts of their roster. They just cut Harold Landry. They're going to definitely need an edge rusher. I think definitely need a couple pieces in the secondary. They definitely need a quarterback. This is weird. Like I don't love this at all. I really think they're like hustling backwards, right? You're making your first signing of the offseason is to correct a mistake from last offseason, and your second signing is getting depth at the best part of your roster. So I'm not thrilled at all with these two signings, but yeah, I don't. Again, neither of these players are bad. It's just you're adding solid players at spots that I don't think you should have had to. Also, I think a team like Tennessee is primed to draft offensive linemen because one, they have the time to develop offensive linemen. They're not going to be good like immediately under any circumstances. But also, they have one of the best offensive line coaches in football. Bill Callahan, I think it's Bill is the dad. But yeah, the coach's dad is the offensive line coach, and he's one of the best offensive line coaches in football, apparently. So when you have that, you should have the opportunity. Like, I think that's the kind of coach you feed high-level prospects. But it is what it is, man. They wanted to overpay Dan Moore. Not much else left to say. Giants. So the first thing I want to talk about when we talk about the Giants is when I previewed their offseason, what did I tell you guys? I told you guys that this roster is more expensive than you think. And because it's more expensive than you think, they're not really going to be able to spend like a team that's as bad as they are. And what have they done so far? They signed Paulson Adebo, $18 million a year. Paulson Adebo, tricky player because I do think when he's been healthy last year and the year before, actually had some good production, but he just hasn't been healthy, and he I think suffered a really bad injury last year. So there's upside and downside for that signing, but it is what it is. Like, I'm not really going to criticize it. You got to take your chances when you're in the spot that the Giants are in. But Roy Robertson-Harris, steady defensive tackle. Not really a home run signing, but like a quality, move. Like, again, these aren't bad moves, but when you take a step back and you look at the bigger picture with the Giants, you have a team that needs to win in the worst way. Like, this coaching staff and this management team has done so much damage to the 53-man roster and the salary cap sheet. The pressure is on them to turn in a good season, like a season that leaves the ownership and the fans feeling good. With that in mind, it's not good enough to just have a steady offseason. So is Paulson Adebo and Roy Robertson-Harris going to meaningfully change things for the Giants? No. Is the offseason over? No. But when I look at the players that are starting to get signed and I think about them, like, yeah, I'm not necessarily thrilled with how the rest of the offseason is going to go. If they really begin to feel some pressure to get better, I could see them making a bad signing, overpaying for somebody. So we're going to see how they manage the rest of the offseason. It looks like they're going to put a lot of pressure on themselves in the draft, and drafting under pressure is how you get bad draft classes. I talked about it with the Bears. I talked about it with the Jaguars. When you alleviate the pressure to draft particular kinds of players or particular positions by having a well-rounded roster, you draft for BPA, you draft for value, and you get good players. When you know there's needs you have to address, you force it, and you don't get great value. So I'm kind of weary about that with the Giants, but we'll see what happens. The Broncos got Talanoa Hufanga, DJ Jones, and Matt Pert. But yeah, Hufanga, good safety. That's a quality player. I was going to upgrade a defense it was a weird defense. Like, statistically, it was very, very good. They had some excellent games. But also Jameis almost went for 500 on them. So, obviously they had some injuries that day, but the best defense in football should never be a couple injuries away from Jameis Winston going for 500 yards. So upgrading that defense, adding some quality and some depth definitely is going to help. DJ Jones, he was on the team last year. They retained him. Yes, Hufanga was former Niners. Also, shout out to Severance. Last name was Severance. I forget the first name. I think it was Paul. We got a Broncos fan in the community now. He's not here, but hopefully he gets to watch this on replay after the fact. But yeah, Hufanga is good. DJ Jones was there last year, so he was obviously a part of the defense that did the job. Run stuffing defensive tackle, complements Zach Allen well. Not like a home run of a player, but again, these are the steady players that make up 53-man rosters. People typically don't know about them, but they help. Also, again, not a huge contract, and because it's such a good defensive tackle class, they have 3 players. So they have John Franklin Myers, this guy, and Zach Allen. you're not really under pressure to draft a defensive tackle, but they're also 28, 29, and 30. So you probably should. But that being said, like, again, you're not drafting for need. You can take a defensive tackle wherever the value is right. And it sets them up nicely for that. Matt Part, I think, is a depth offensive line. So that's just a steady signing. Their offensive line was quality last year. And now you have a respectable backup. But yeah, just a steady offseason for the Broncos so far, a few hours into it, obviously. We'll see what else they do. I think I would like to see some more offensively. I think they need to upgrade the weapons, but at the same time, there's a lot of options at receiver. So you still got Cooper Kupp out there. There's still a couple other guys out there. So we'll see what happens. Moving on to the Chiefs. The Chiefs got Elijah Mitchell and Jalen Moore. This is really peculiar because, okay, Elijah Mitchell, obviously running back that has had some decent moments with the Niners. He's going to probably be a part of a committee in Kansas City. Like, that's solid. Jalen Moore is a really strange signing because they paid him $15 million a year, which you do not pay that to somebody and then expect them to back up. He's going to start. And as for who he is, he was the backup swing tackle for the Niners last year, and he played whenever Trent Williams was hurt. So you're talking about a guy who has no extensive play in the NFL. He's just had like 3-4 starts here and there. Those kind of players, right? Like, they're really unscouted players. Like, there's not enough tape about what makes them good or bad, truthfully. Like, this is a wild card of a signing. This is the scout team evaluating a player and saying, like, we think that this guy has amazing upside. I don't think these are the type of chances you should be taking when you have Patrick Mahomes. Like, this team is, Super Bowl contender every year, basically. I think this is the kind of chance you take when you have nothing to lose. The Chiefs have a lot to lose, especially fresh off a Super Bowl when you saw what happens when Pat Mahomes is not, protected by his offensive line. So my understanding of this move is that they're going to be playing Jalen Moore at left tackle. So you got a guy that's a wild card at left tackle. He might be good. What I heard is that he played very well for the Niners whenever he did play. But again, this is an unscouted guy, really. He's 28 too, so he's not even like a young prospect. This is just an outright gamble at left tackle, and we're the Kansas City Chiefs. Why are we making outright gambles at left tackle? Like, it's a little bit, I don't know. I don't hate the move, because if he played well in stints, then he deserves a chance to start somewhere. I just don't think the Chiefs should be the organization. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that signing. Chiefs quiet offseason so far. I did talk about Bengals and Chiefs in the offseason. I talked about how it's going to be pretty difficult for these teams to get better because of their cap situation. So we're seeing it early with the Chiefs. I got like 10 teams left. God damn. All right, I'm going to try to run through these last teams. Colts signed Cam Bynum. In terms of the offseason, they need a lot more than Cam Bynum. He's a good player, $15 million a year for a safety. He got a lot of turnovers, hell of a dancer and a touchdown celebrator. But yeah, they obviously, this is just a start. It's a good start, but they're gonna need a lot more than a safety. And we'll see how things go, because like the needs that they have are pressing. Like, hey, are we gonna have a quarterback next year? That's a pressing need. They really don't know what they have at receiver, because A.D. Mitchell didn't really show up the way you would have wanted him to last year, but also it's too early to give up on him. They have to figure out the offensive line, because I think their center and their left guard are free agents. So they got some pressing needs out there. Safety, I don't think was one of the pressing needs, but they got a good player. So can't really hate, but incomplete grade so far, man. They need to make some more moves. The Steelers, it looks like they're going to sign Darius Slay. So this is reported by Schultz, but not really verified by anybody else. Darius Slay played well last year. The thing is like, he missed a lot of time without really missing games. Like, he would exit games and then come back later or not come back. So Isaiah Rodgers, who we're going to talk about in a few teams, Isaiah Rodgers actually had to play a lot, and he had to play enough to get $8 million a year. So the thing about Darius Slay is, at his age, he was by far the oldest starting corner last year in football. He's obviously going to be the same thing this year. I don't expect him to stay healthy. I hope he does, because I'm a fan of the guy. But it kind of reminds me of the Steelers having Patrick Peterson. Like, he's not going to be bad. He's going to be a quality player, but like maybe for 1 year, maybe he's going to fall off. But more importantly, like they had other areas that I think they have to focus on more. So basically, just securing Slay, putting yourself in a position where you can draft an understudy for him, and then you know that you have Slay and JPJ. Not a bad spot to be in. So yeah, Darius Slay, definitely old. But yeah, obviously, like this is the only move they've made so far. They got DK yesterday. They have more moves to make for sure. And hey, that quarterback spot, that's a huge thing that's still looming. So we're gonna see what happens. The Falcons extended Jake Matthews. So I put this here less so to talk about Jake Matthews and more so to talk about what the hell are the Falcons doing, man? Like they need to make moves because I don't even know if they've really like made signings. Like they didn't make signings yesterday or like prior to free agency, right? So the only thing that they've done so far is they've extended their old left tackle who's no longer the blindside blocker because Michael Penix is left-handed. The right tackle is the blindside blocker. This guy is the guy in front of him. So the first thing you do is you pay him, I think, $23 million a year. And again, he's a good player and he's old, but I mean, I guess they clearly think that he's going to continue to be good. But yeah, like you guys need to do a lot more stuff. You got rid of Grady Jarrett. You traded for Judon. He wasn't particularly good last year. Like they have a ton of needs on defense and they haven't acquired anybody yet. And a bunch of defensive talent has been scooped up. So again, Falcons, another team that their offseason so far is lining them up to have a lot of pressure put on them, in the draft. So we'll see how that works out. Okay. Jared, I will drop the link in the chat because we're about to get to your Texans next. So yeah, while you get in here, I'm just going to rip through it. So they got Sheldon Rankins, Derek Barnett, and Braxton Berrios. So Derek Barnett was on the team from last year. They have some familiarity there. Sheldon Rankins was on, I think he was on the Jets when Rob Saleh was there, and D'Amico and Rob Saleh have some overlapping themes. So I also think, wasn't Rankins there? I think there was another tie, but basically there's some familiarity with Rankins and Barnett. Braxton Berrios, he just came from Miami in the Mike McDaniel offense that, again, that comes from the McVay Shanahan family. Braxton Berrios coming to Nick Caley's Texans offense. Nick Caley, obviously, from McVay's staff. So Berrios is probably a fit into the offense, but his contract is tiny, and I don't think the expectation is going to be that he got like a wide receiver 4 contract. They're not going to rely on him a lot. So it's just a little bit of depth there. They have obviously Kirk, Mechie, Dell. We'll see if he plays Nico Collins, but this is just a little bit of depth. Again, I think this stops them from needing to draft a receiver, but obviously I think they will if the right receiver is there. And then Rankins and Derek Barnett, just some depth along the defensive line. I think Rankins got $7 million a year. Derek Barnett got $5 million a year. So these are pretty standard signings. Nothing out of this universe so far. Seems like they're going to have a quiet off season in terms of spending. But yeah, we're definitely going to have to see the other moves they're able to make because these are some pretty subdued moves. Just about getting some solid players to fill some gaps. But yeah, real quick, not like a bunch of crazy moves to talk about, but we're just going to get Jared to chime in as our resident Texans fan. What do you think so far, the moves?
So what did we sign?
Sheldon Rankins, Derek Barnett, and Braxton Berrios.
I don't know why we signed Braxton Berrios, though.
I think just some depth to where like he's probably going to be the wide receiver 4 punt returner kind of a guy. And it's just going to be about like, hey, if things go wrong, at least we have this guy to play who kind of knows.
True, like if Nico Collins gets hurt.
What's that?
If Nico Collins gets hurt.
Oh yeah, or if Kirk gets hurt, or if Mechie gets hurt, because yeah, I think right now it's Nico, Mechie, and Kirk that are the 1, 2, 3. There's the outside possibility that Tank Dell comes back. There's the outside possibility that they draft a receiver. So yeah, Berrios is not going to be relied on at all, really. So it's just like some depth. But that's the thing. You guys basically just made depth signings so far. Nothing really to like write home about, but you know, solid players.
I think we're waiting for some old linemen.
And that's the thing. You guys got rid of Shaq Mason. You guys got rid of Laramie Tunsil. So I think you guys are definitely going to make a move at offensive line.
Who did we Why did we trade him away? I know he was getting old.
So he's getting old and he had a down year. So they might just think that he's on the decline and it's time to go.
What's your
So I think that's that. But yeah, I mean, again, not much to write home about. So yeah,
Plus, it's still early too.
What's that?
Plus, it's still early too. So
for sure. So we're definitely going to be checking in on teams as they make more moves. But yeah,
right, just a flip with the Jets.
Yeah, I'll get you back at the end. I'm just going to rip through these last few teams.
Yeah, you can take me out. I'll be still on here. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Next move we're gonna look teams we're gonna look at is the Rams. So they got back. First, I'll talk about Garoppolo. So they got him back. Standard backup, standard good backup deal. I think 11 mil. I think they're clearly making a Super Bowl push this year. Like that's what Devontae Adams. That's what that signing says. That signing says we're trying to win a Super Bowl now. That is not like a. You're not thinking about a big window. So you paid Stafford, you paid Devontae. That says you're winning now. When you have that kind of a team, obviously you want as experienced of a backup as you can get. And a backup that started in a Super Bowl is just about the most experienced backup you could get. So it checks out from that standpoint. Obviously, nobody thinks Garoppolo is a great football player, but most backups aren't great football players. So this checks out. But yeah, Poona Ford, that's a big signing because Poona Ford is a run stuffing nose tackle. If you have watched this channel, you know that I have talked about to great extents how the Rams rush defense was not good last year. And prior to the snow falling in Philadelphia in that game, the Eagles were running all over them. And when the Eagles saw them in LA, they ran all over them. So I've always beat that drum about whenever they run into Philadelphia or Detroit, they get ran all over. They needed a run stuffing defensive tackle, and my point was always that like their defensive tackles are pass rush specialists, and they're a little bit light. Oddly enough, Poona Ford himself is not the heaviest player. I do think he's only at like 300 pounds, which is uncharacteristically light for rush stuffing nose tackles, but he is damn effective at his size. Played for Harbaugh last year, played for the Chargers, so he stays in LA. But yeah, Poona Ford, they got their rush stuffing nose tackle, and that's exactly what they needed. So hell of a signing there. Next thing I'm looking at for them is a linebacker. So if they get a good run stuffing linebacker, then they're really filling their gaps defensively. But the next team we're going to look at is the Vikings. We got Isaiah Rodgers. It looks like they're going to lose, what's his name? Not Bynum. Who's the corner? Oh, why am I blanking? I have to look it up now. Vikings are lads. Byron Murphy. Actually, you know what? Maybe this is a Gilmore replacement. Actually, we're going to have to see about that. But basically, they were losing all their starting corners. Gilmore, Murphy, and Shaq Griffin. So a team that's losing all their starting corners needed somebody. They got Isaiah Rodgers, again, a player who, off of a 1-year suspension, played for the Eagles whenever Slay would go down and looked the part, like not a home run Pro Bowler kind of a player, but definitely a starting caliber corner. So they got that, checked a bit of a box there. So that's great for them. And yeah, I think Isaiah Rodgers is going to play good football for them. They're not paying him like elite money. They're honestly probably paying him like cornerback 2 or 3 money. So solid move. I like it. We're going to move to the Bengals, who are just making wild signings, right? Like BJ Hill, solid player, respectable run stuffer. Again, like when you know how much money they have to spend, you know you're not going to get flashy signings. So it's a signing with substance. But DJ Slayton, I don't know. I remember watching the Packers twice last year when they played the Eagles and feeling like he's really not that good. Might be off about that. Maybe he just had a rough day against, one of the best offensive lines in the history of football. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's a great day one free agency signing. And then you got Samaje Perine, who was on the Chiefs last year, but you have Chase Brown and Zach Moss. You have 2 guys that are going to play. This guy is probably going to touch the field 15% of the snaps. They're not really paying him much, but again, kind of just when you know the kind of money they have to spend, when you see these kind of moves, it's just like, oh, man, they're just holding off on paying guys. They're not really making great signings. in the meantime. Like the vibes in Cincinnati just aren't great for their offseason. But yeah, P. Ryan, Hill, and Slayton. Not a great first day return. Obviously, I'm judging these teams for what they've done so far, and we're literally just 5 hours into free agency. So a lot of scope left, or a lot of room for things to turn around. But yeah, not a great start for Cincinnati. Raiders. The Raiders signed Jeremy Chin. So this is the one move that they've made so far. I'm seeing on Twitter right now that they've made some other moves, but I'm going to leave that for another update. So I'll probably do an update tomorrow night, and I'll factor in some of the other moves that they made, because I think they paid Kuntz and they paid a corner. Hobbs, I think? No, they didn't pay Hobbs. Anyways, I saw that they made some moves. We're going to react to the other ones tomorrow. But so far, they got Jeremy Chin. Jeremy Chin played well for the Commanders. Solid safety. Really respected in the draft. Things didn't work out in Carolina because things tend to not work out for good players in Carolina. And he found a home in Dan Quinn's defense. So he's going to the Raiders, and is probably going to be I guess a core part of just like the culture reset that's good. They're going to try to have in Las Vegas. But yeah, steady signing. And like I said, we're going to get to their next signings, because I haven't got a chance to, like, since I've been live for this last hour, I'm obviously not checking my phone. I briefly checked while Jared was here. I think they have some more signings, but we're going to look at that tomorrow. Yeah, last three teams, minor moves. We got the Saints trading for Devon Godshaw, nose tackle, run stuffing nose tackle. What I just want to say about this is that, like, this is the only move the Saints have made, and this is a great image of like how rough their offseason is, because they have no money to spend, man. They've spent so much money. Their roster is so expensive. Similar to the Jaguars, where I talked about those two expensive bad teams who are at the fork in the road. Both of them had a similar approach of like, we're not doubling down and trying to put our new coach in a position where, hey, get the most out of these players. Yeah, the spending is cut. The moves are going to be minor, and probably both teams are in for bad years. The Bills signed Josh Palmer. This one is surprising to me because I don't think they need a Josh Palmer. Fun fact, though, he's from Brampton, Ontario, which is where I'm from, close by to Toronto. I live about an hour and 20 minutes away from the Bills Stadium. So Josh Palmer is really coming home with this move. Like, I love that for him, I guess. But, like, I don't think the Bills need a Josh Palmer. I think they have enough Josh Palmers. And I don't mean players with his skill set. I mean wide receiver threes. But I think the Bills have hella wide receiver threes. They might have, let me look at it. They might have like 5 wide receiver threes now. Bills are lads. Let's see this depth chart. Bro, they have Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, and now Josh Palmer. Argument could be made that maybe Shakir or Coleman are wide receiver 2s, but like truthfully, bro, they have 4 wide receiver 3s. That's crazy. Again, I'm not hating on any of those players as individuals, but cumulatively, you put that together, and I don't understand it. So I don't know. Like, I guess they're just buying. Like, this feels like Josh Allen is going to enter that post Tyreek Hill Mahomes era of like Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like, he's entering that phase of his career where it's like, hey, our quarterback is the superstar. That's just going to have to be what it is. So yeah, I mean, again, like as an individual, like the contract isn't horrible. Josh Palmer is not horrible, but I just think the roster construction is really strange. So it is what it is. We'll see how it turns out. I think they really need Keon Coleman to develop. They need Keon Coleman to be like a stud, because honestly, I don't know if Josh Allen can do the Mahomes thing of winning without receivers. Partially because he has to not just win, but he has to beat Mahomes. So I don't know, man. I don't love this for Buffalo, but we'll see. Okay, and the last team we're going to look at today are the Niners, who signed Luke Farrell. And I say this, I'm bringing this up not to talk about Luke Farrell, but just to talk about what the Niners have done so far. So they've lost a guard, Aaron Banks. They've lost Hufanga. Did they lose Kinlaw? No. Kinlaw left from the Jets. They lost somebody else. But yeah, they've lost pieces. And what have they added? They added a backup tight end. And this isn't even a small contract. I think he's getting paid like $6 million a year. They signed a premier backup tight end with their first and only move at the beginning of free agency, right? They have George Kittle. They have one of the better tight ends in football. And yes, they run a lot of 2 tight end sets. So their second tight end is probably more important than a lot of other teams' second tight end. But yo, just look at this. Just look at the banner, right? Some teams banners look like let me go back to the top. Some teams banners look like this or this or this or this or this or this. Some of the teams look like this. Then you have the Niners. Their banner looks like this, signing Luke Farrell. I don't think many people in the chat knew who Luke Farrell was before I said this name here. So yeah, I mean, kind of a peculiar start to free agency for the Niners. I think what it screams is that, hey, we're about to pay Brock Purdy a shit ton of money. We've already paid a bunch of this roster a shit ton of money, and we don't really have a whole lot of spending capabilities. That's what it says. So they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves for the draft. They're putting a lot of pressure on themselves to develop some of those players, and kind of scared for them. So I've gotten through every single team that I wanted to get through. I got through basically all the signings that I was able to keep track of when I checked my what's it called? When I like, as I've been keeping up with the free agency up until the start of this stream, there have been a couple streams that happened. Sorry, a couple signings that have happened during the stream, but yeah, can't get to those. So I'll get to those tomorrow. I see King is in here, bro. King. Okay, hold on. I'm tagging Jared in, bro. We're gonna have just the general talk at the end. But yeah, I went to sleep and I didn't see you were live. Fair enough.
And by the way, I do fly into Toronto tomorrow night.
Yeah, bro. I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna see you. But yeah, bro, you guys got Slay, and then Ben Johnson invested more into an offensive line in 1 month than this terrorist John Snyder did in 12 years. Talk about it, Ariel. Talk about it.
Dude, the Bears. I think the Bears won the offseason this year.
Oh, I love the approach, man. I love the approach. Ariel, is this your first time? Is this your first time in the chat, bro? I don't think I remember your name. Big up to you, though. We got our second Seahawks fan of the community.
I don't know what he thinks about Sam Darnold signing.
Bro, but I don't know. They have to go interior offensive line at some point. They also have to go tackle.
Yeah.
The Bears, yeah.
Bro,
no, we're talking about the Seahawks.
Oh, Seahawks, yeah, Seattle needs.
No, especially because they have Darnold now. Because guys, we just watched how Darnold looked when his line wasn't keeping him healthy. Not healthy, wasn't keeping him clean. That shit was a disaster.
Like, look at the wild card game.
Yes. So
wait, Sam Darnold went to Seattle.
Oh, bro,
for 3 years.
You legit slept through free agency, bro. This is so funny. It's like a man is waking up out of a coma and is like, wait, what happened?
Oh, we gotta draft Jackson right now.
Hey, bro. Okay, let me run you through what happened. All right, people who've been in the stream that have watched the whole thing, forgive me.
I need a previously on Dragon Ball Z. I need that.
Previously on Dragon Ball Z, brother. Seahawks got Sam Darnold. Jets got Justin Fields. Patriots got Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Robert Spillane. The Bears got a center and 2 defensive linemen. The Buccaneers got Hassan Reddick and some of their players back. The Lions got DJ Reed. The Cardinals got Josh Sweat. The Jaguars got hella mid players. The Commanders got Javon Kinlaw and Laramie Tunsil. The Panthers got J.C. Horn locked up, and they got a safety from the Raiders. The Chargers brought back Khalil Mack. The Packers signed a horrible Niners offensive lineman. The Titans paid Dan Moore $20+ million a year, brother.
Oh no! Oh no!
So, what's your thoughts on that, King? How do you think Dan Moore was last year?
I mean, he was $20 million a year, though. They're trying to make their line look more sexy for whoever they draft for. That's all this is.
And they got the number 1 pick. So, are they going to go quarterback?
Bro, but here's the thing. They went left tackle Dan Moore in free agency because they realized J.C. Latham couldn't be a left tackle, their first round pick from last year. They had to kick him to right tackle. Guess who said that? Most people who know about J.C. Latham, because he only ever played right tackle. So you learned your right tackle can't play left tackle. You realize you have to get a left tackle. You panic and pay Dan Moore way too much money. And now you're going to put be honest, right? The only quarterbacks left are Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, maybe Kirk Cousins. They're going to put a bad quarterback behind that line. Like, this is all going to fall apart for the Titans.
Dude, so do they draft the quarterback or they They're like, do they play Will Levis?
Oh my god, that would be the funniest outcome out of all this if they put Will Levis in this. Oh my god, if they put him back on the field. But yeah, Ariel, bro, you guys putting Sam Darnold behind that offensive line is going to be tough. That offensive line, like, there are no options. They have to upgrade it. But then beyond that, right? And this is what I talked about at the beginning of the stream, because the Seahawks and Darnold was the first thing I talked about. I think they have to morph into like a run first offense, because they're not going to have the weapons to throw the football around, right? Forget the offensive line for a second. Darnold was throwing to Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. All right.
Yep.
He's not going to have that or anything close to it next year. So
he's throwing to Jason and a bunch of Make-A-Wish kids.
Facts, bro. JSN and Make-A-Wish kids.
Because they traded away DK Metcalf and they released Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, and appreciate that DK trade.
So here's the thing, right?
King.
If you look at their offense, bro, Charbonnet and K9, that's the best part of their offense. So it has to be the best part of their offense next year. Get an offensive line, run the fuck out of the ball, and then let Sam Darnold be a game manager. That's what they have to do.
Do like what the Bears are doing. Do what the Bears are doing. They're restructuring their O-line.
Yeah, that is what they need.
What's your thoughts on Josh Sweat, though, going to the Cardinals?
Oh, okay. Interesting you bring this up. So here's the thing. If you could copy paste what Josh Sweat was last year and you put it in Arizona, it's exactly what they need. He has familiarity with the scheme because Gannon was in Philadelphia. And they had a horrible pass rush last year. It would make them a lot better. The issue with Josh Sweat is that he's an up and down player. Like, he was never consistent in Philadelphia. He would go from average to great and just back and forth. So like,
then go back down.
And the thing is, I think his best years were always in contract years. I just kind of feel like you put that kind of inconsistent player in a situation like Arizona, which is a bit of a crapshoot. It's a recipe for a bad signing. Again, that's just
how much did they sign him for?
Like almost $20 million a year. It's just a possibility, though.
Holy
if he does play like he did last year, it's going to be great for them. But it's a bit of an unknown.
And the Niners, there's rumors of Niners signing Joey Bosa.
Yeah, I don't think they still did that yet. But
they got to sign somebody.
Yeah, they have to sign somebody.
They only signed a tight end.
Luke Farrell. They signed a backup tight end for like stupid money too.
No, people are saying that Joey Bosa is going to go with his brother Nick Bosa with the Niners.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I gotta watch the Jets. This is basically Justin Fields / Chance U. Let's be honest. If he somehow fails now, there's no way he's getting accepted again.
Oh, by the way, King, the rumors today, most of today, were that like Fields was choosing between the Jets and the Steelers, and the Steelers were meeting with Rodgers. So it does look like, bro, you guys are going to get Aaron Rodgers.
Uh-oh.
Guys,
send him to Minnesota so he can complete his fall career, please.
If you guys sign Aaron Rodgers, I'm doing the biggest victory lap ever.
No, please, bro. Please.
Doing the biggest victory lap ever. Give me 1 second.
No, we do not need this.
I'll sign King a Rodgers jersey if he does.
Oh Lord, don't do that to me.
No,
he's a solid guy.
I can't have you two and Gail playing on this, please.
No, I'll get King the DK Metcalf jersey. How about that?
Does that sound better?
I'm fine with that, but no, I can't have Rodgers here. I can't.
Oh, Rodgers is in his 40s. He did not look good with the Jets at all.
I'm sorry, Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, and George Pickens on the same team. We're getting many flags and so much drama.
Bro,
I don't know.
Infinite ads and infinite podcasts.
Guys, I cannot wait to watch the Steelers next year, bro. I literally cannot wait. What the hell? Like, the way those receivers are going to crash out, oh my God, it's going to be amazing.
Wait, do Texans play the Steelers?
Ravens might actually go back to like the early 2000s.
Yo, I'm not even going to lie. Like, Marlon Humphrey is getting his ass beat the first time the Ravens play the Steelers.
I swear to God.
I wish I was joking, but I'm not.
Archon Humphrey versus DK Metcalf. Who is going to win? DK Metcalf by
my
100%.
goodness. Yo, it's gonna be the crash out Olympics. You know how like Steph and Clay were the splash bros? DK and Metcalf, DK and Pickens, that's the crash bros.
And the crash is for crashing out.
Crashing.
And doesn't the Steelers have to re-sign DK Metcalf at the end of the season?
No, we already did that with this contract, basically.
How much is he getting paid now?
It's technically quote unquote 30 mil a year, but because he's still at that time with Seattle, it's not really going to be that much per year.
Hold on, guys. This is. I just found what I was looking for. This is what I'm doing the craziest victory lap ever for this. If Rodgers goes to the Steelers, because last
Oh
time
my God, he predicted it.
Last time
He
we did put it
predicted
back musical chairs, my crazy half-court shot was like, guys, I feel like Rodgers to the Steelers makes sense because I think Mike Tomlin might be one of the few coaches that Rodgers respects enough to like fall in line. And I think the Steelers, they need a desperate, like they're desperate enough to have a good year where they might look at it like, screw it. If Aaron Rodgers gets his shit together, that might be our best chance at being contenders. So I just thought like,
I've seen him on the Jets. We're gonna get many delay of games from him. Oh, I'm about to get like 3 delay games a game. Oh my God.
It's not going to be the best. It's not going to be the best, but it is what it is. Yo, Brock, quick question. If you're still in here, is Aaron Banks ass? We just need to know because I need to know if my like thoughts and feelings were correct. I
think Aaron Banks is ass. He didn't do good last year.
That's what most people say. So I just want to know for sure. And then once, bro, this is so just just kidding. Okay, bro, that's all we needed to know. But shout out to
thanks for the update.
What's that?
I said thanks for the update, Brock. For the Aaron Banks update.
But yeah, shout out to everybody in here. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I do have to go now, regrettably. So we're gonna end this stream here. I'm gonna be back tomorrow night to recap all the moves that I couldn't get to today. There's a few that happened during the stream, so I'm gonna put them all together and run through them team by team like I did today. And we're just gonna keep doing this throughout the rest of free agency until it stops. So same format. I'm gonna go team by team, and then I'm gonna have all the guys come in at the end of it. So anybody that wants to join this little panel at the end, the stream yard link is always going to be in the chat. Like I said, make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, whether you're watching this.
So who won the offseason so far? That's my question. Who won the offseason so far right now?
Man, it's too early to call those kind of shots, but we're going to get into that business for sure during some of the future streams. Literally, we're 5 hours in, bro. We gotta be a little bit restrained. But like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss when we go live. And yeah, just get involved. This chat.
Well, DK Metcalf.
Facts. These streams are always the best when the chat is jumping. So
because I signed a wide receiver today, and I don't was it Burrow?
Yeah, the Niners, they got Luke Farrell, tight end.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about my Texans.
Oh no, yeah, you guys got Braxton Berrios.
Yeah, Braxton Berrios. That's who we saw.
But yeah, get active in the chat if you guys are in here, man. Don't be shy. You don't have to be a passive viewer. Come hang out with us. We don't bite. But with that said, like I said, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm out. Take care.